Evening, everyone. Through the sit downs, I'd like to call the meeting of the Restoration Commission for April 17th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. First item of business is for this
Commissioner Cabreros,
present.
Commissioner Fedor, Commissioner Isaac,
Present.
Commissioner Schoen, Commissioner Thigpen, Commissioner Wolfer, Commissioner Hopkins,
Present.
Commissioner Kravitz,
Present.
Commissioner Newby,
Here.
Vice Chair Davis,
Present.
Chair Sipkins.
Present. The United States to the Republic which stands one nation for liberty and justice for all. Item number 4, the acceptance of the agenda. Any comments, questions, concerns with the agenda for tonight's meeting? If not, will someone please move the acceptance of the agenda? So moved. Anyone opposed? If not, by acclamation, I'll declare the agenda. Next item on the agenda is item number 5, the approval of minutes for 2025 meeting. Any comments, questions, or amendments, and edits to that meeting minutes? If not, then I have a motion. So moved. I would declare the section. They generally cannot take items not listed on the agenda. 3 minutes are assigned to each speaker. Was rigorously enforces asking any follow-up questions to your comments during this proceeding. That Melissa can do policies making.
Speaker of the night, we have Kate Castle.
Hi everyone, my name is Kate Castle and I'm a resident of Palm Springs, and I live in the south end of Palm Springs. So as a result, I probably see this issue more often than some of you who live in other parts of the city. Specifically on Highway 111, we used to have a sign that said, "Welcome to Palm Springs." That sign was made out of wood and it has since deteriorated. And unfortunately, we do not have a sign that's been used as a replacement. They had tried, the city, to install one in a meridian in the middle of Highway 111 road going down Valley, which caused a lot of accidents. So they pulled that meridian, pulled that sign, and so now we still don't have a sign. The only way someone who is coming into our city is with a small state issued sign that gives the population and the elevation, and it's situated right next to a very large check cashing sign that is in our neighboring community. So I brought it to your attention because I had an opportunity to try and collaborate with different individuals to try and address this issue, because I think it's important for our city to have pride in our city. And with that being said, I reached out to Scott Styles, who said, yes, we definitely want to do something like this. Of course, it's up to the city council. I talked to different members of the city council. They said, yes, we want to do this. But one thing after another, it wasn't coming together. So then Scott and I were talking about, well, you know, best thing I was getting was like this very large bid to do something. And I was like, you know, it seemed really high for that little tiny sign that you see on Dinah Shore that says Palm Springs. So reached out to the art commissioner, who Scott had suggested I talk to, which is Gary Anderson. And I said, hey, Gary, what would happen if we did something more like what we see on top of it? Something really beautiful, has the cachet of Palm Springs that we could drive by and really be proud of. And then everyone knows they've entered our city. And he says, oh yeah, absolutely, we can do that. This is the kind of budget, this is how it would be handled. We'd be working with the city to install it, but the Arts Commission would choose one of the artists that would submit something for us to review. We then would bring that to the city council. So I have everybody saying, yes, we want to do this, but now we need to pay for it. So we came up with a budget that I submitted and gave a little extra for some wiggle room should it become more expensive than what we were projecting. And so that is why we came up with the figure that we did in my application. I hope I'm addressing the questions that I'm guessing you might have with this. I really feel very strongly about it, and I hope you'll consider it. Thank you.
Michael Joseph Pickens.
Years, either homosexual, 46 years, unhoused, 6 years, unemployed, 20 years, First Nations European, Eastern European, lifetime, theistic Satanist, 15 years, Democrat, 40 years, male, lifetime. I have 4 requests. Number 1, please create an ordinance to require recycling of cans and bottles at every retailer. Returning cans and bottles where a customer purchases will have multiple impacts. Not only will air quality be a factor, but transportation will be more smooth for those who recycle regularly. But the bus lines refuse to allow bags of cans on the bus. Other states have this. Walmart, Aldi, Target do this already. All stores and convenience stores need to join. Number 2, Prop 1, requiring all unhoused to be listed in crisis for behavioral health as insane, criminal, or drug addicts. Here, Roy's Navigation Center, $250 million was spent. The current Navigation Center, 10 upon tens of millions spent. This is an article from Palm Springs Life, June 4th, 2017. Green Acres, Matthew Naylor, Architectural Blue. For many years, I've researched the idea of container homes. I like the idea of using recycled materials that are often forgotten or sitting somewhere, such as a container in a shipyard. There will be around 35 containers used. Does that sound familiar? 710 East Research Drive, when you go there, it doesn't exist. And now, don'tmindme.com, $78 million of the $3.3 billion for Riverside County. I would rather have seen a JobWorks program or even rent paid for vulnerable unhoused instead. Number 3, I'm asking all meetings and appointments of the mayor and city council be added to one calendar, similar to something like this. All CVAG and state and county meetings also need to be added so there is more transparency in the business of the city. Chaos government is designed to confuse and hide. Residents being forced to go through 5 different boards and commission schedules is unacceptable. These are all 5 of your current website meeting schedules. You all know that. And it's just impossible to try to figure out. Every city should have a Zoom room for every meeting open to the public. Number 4, new intersections, roads, and sidewalks poured only to later be torn out by the state. That comes off as unions leasing of America.
Michael Coe.
Good evening, Chair Stimpkins and Commissioners. I'm here really because you're still here, and I wanted to let you know that in support of the Ruth Harvey Park permanent space, which used to be called Chief Historic. I want to thank you again for the hard work that you've done for this past period of time, and just share that we've met with Parks and Rec, that they strongly support this and have kind of taken the reins of the project. I'm here tonight just to let you know that our vigor and our excitement about this project are still alive and well, and we will continue to support it as long as the process takes. So thank you very, very much. I appreciate you all very much. And that's all I got. Thank you.
What did you do that?
Good evening. I'm Maggie Gerard. I'm Senior Vice President of the Foundation at Eisenhower Health. And I came tonight to thank you for your support of our grant request in recommending funding for our new infusion center and cardiology clinic to be built here at our West Valley campus just up the road. As the only not-for-profit hospital here in the Coachella Valley, we are reliant on community funding to provide exceptional care to all of our patients. Our current strategic plan is focused on providing Eisenhower quality care closer to where our patients live and work. In this case, when a Palm Springs patient is sick and needs infusion care, to allow them access to their daily or weekly infusions real close to their home instead of having to drive to Rancho Mirage will ease their burden while allowing them to get health needs. At Eisenhower, 80% of our patients are on Medicare or Medi-Cal. And that simply means that the operating funds that remain when all is said and done are not enough to fund the expansion of that's necessary to meet the demands of this community. All of the funding for expansion and capital projects must be raised by donors, from municipal partners from the city of Palm Springs. A recent study by the Strategic Econometrics assessed Eisenhower's significant impact to the Coachella Valley. In real terms, in 2024, Eisenhower accounted for 5,206 jobs in the Coachella Valley. We provided $714 million in annual employee earnings and contributed $1.2 billion in economic output. We hope that makes us great community partners. More importantly, we are currently providing services to 507 of our neighbors who live in Palm Springs and are receiving infusion services. Your support allows us to continue to deliver compassionate, quality care for these patients and continue to create an exceptional workspace workforce for our nearly 400 employees who live here in Palm Springs. We're really grateful for your support. Just wanted to come here and say.
Katie Barris.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Katie Barris. Thank you all for the significant work that you do in many ways to make things better for both Palm Springs and the whole valley. I really can appreciate that, with our Nature in Our Backyard project, that you were able to find a way to provide partial funding and the needed pre-funding that Joseph was recommended at the last meeting. I'm very pleased with that and appreciate your going back, not just our project, but others to see if you can make some of these different programs possible. So I just wanted to say thank you. We're really excited. Things are looking very positive at Prescott Preserve, and I think you're going to be seeing a lot of great things coming in the future. So we really just want to thank you for considering our project and recommendation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Jonathan Larissa Zerba on Zoom. Jonathan, can you hear me?
Melissa, can you hear me? I might be having technical difficulties.
We can hear you, Jonathan. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Good afternoon, Chair Sipkins, Vice Chair Davis, commissioners, city officials, and members of the public. My name is Jonathan Lorenzo Yorba. I'm a resident of Palm Springs, a proud resident. And I have been attending every single Measure J commission meeting since September of last year, and I apologize that I can't be there today. My remarks are basically to say thank you for all the work that you've done. I've worked in economic development, and I used to basically have Melissa's job, as I've said before, so I know what it takes, and I know what it takes for the commissioners to do their due diligence. I wanted to do a special shout out to Commissioner Feuderer, who got me connected to 1PS and the importance of being involved civically in any way you can with the city. So thank you once again. In closing, to all my Canadian friends, Palm Springs loves you.
Thank you, Jonathan. We have Lake Rodas on the Zoom. Lake, can you hear me?
Yes, Miss Sanchez, I can hear you. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Hello and good evening. My name is Lake Rodas. I am one of the educators for Desert X's after-school art program, Desert X Art Club, and I have never once been to a civic meeting such as this. I was actually recommended to come speak here in support of the Filipino heritage mural that Bayanihan Desert has proposed for Palm Springs near Demuth Park. Thank you so much for this opportunity to add my voice to our valley's cultural heritage. As a Filipino who works in the arts and education here in the desert, our representation in public art holds so much weight for our local community. I work with local students around the entire Coachella Valley to educate about the importance of public art and the impact that public art has on individuals and communities as a whole. And doing this sort of work has only exemplified my feelings even 20-fold that representation in public works of art are hugely understated. And the way that they impact our communities as a whole is something that's seen almost on an invisible level. The next generation of Filipino Americans here in the Coachella Valley deserve to feel seen and heard as much as any other community. I myself am a Filipino who's grown up here in the Palm Springs area. I'm raised by my parents, Nena and Oscar Rodas of the Filipino American Association of the Coachella Valley, a nonprofit organization that they've had since the 80s. And I've seen firsthand the significance and impact of work within our community and for our community. As a Filipino who works in art and education here in the desert, I do believe that this mural has a rightful place among us here in Palm Springs, a city that has a strong Filipino American community itself that I am a part of and deserves as much as any other community to be championed in representation and honored in our history among the rest of the Coachella Valley. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Oscar Rodas on the line. Oscar, can you hear me?
Okay.
Oscar, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I truly support the idea of making that Bayanihan Desert mural for the Filipino American community. We have been in the Valley since 1979 and supporting or having the Filipino American Association of Coachella Valley with my wife, Nene Edith Rodas. And we really like to have that Filipino heritage over at the Mute Park mural. I urge the commission to support this project and fund this artwork. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes tonight's public comment.
Thank you, Melissa. The next item on the agenda are welcome comments from me as the chair.
Sorry, we have one more. Barsha second.
Thank you, Melissa. Hello, my name is Isabel Chapman. I'm chairman of the board of the National Alliance of Filipino Americans, founded in 2010. And I represent our organization to give you our full support for the mural project of the Filipino Mural Project by Bayanihan Desert. This commission probably knows the Filipino community and heritage is deeply rooted in Palm Springs since the 1930s. In fact, at the corner of Tockwitz and North Palm Canyon was what was dubbed as Manila House, which housed Filipinos who worked at the Desert Inn in the 1930s. And fast forward 50 years ago in September, the farm workers strike in Coachella will be celebrating their 50th anniversary, the Coachella strike that was led by Larry Leong of Delano, who worked alongside Cesar Chavez in getting some equal opportunities and treatment of the farm workers down valley. So in between then and until now, the Filipinos in Coachella Valley have steadily advanced in their own individual pursuits and in business. As the US Census stopped keeping track of Filipinos as a separate category in the census in 2010, we counted around 5,000-ish Filipinos according to the US Census. Since then, I have tracked only by zip code atlas.com, and by my count as of 4 years ago, that has at least doubled. In terms of the economic impact of Filipinos' efforts in the Valley, it's been untold in the medical profession, as you know. I have counted more than 24 pediatricians alone who work here in the Valley, and there are so many other physicians. And as you know, we are well known for being very good nurses in, as a culture that is very caring and not just in hospitals and in clinics, but in home cares, whether that's the 6-bed RCFEs or residential care facilities for the elderly, or the 99-bed and bigger facilities, nursing homes. In terms of businesses, up and down the valley between even outside Coachella Valley, from Banning all the way down to the Salton Sea and beyond, every city has Filipino businesses. Thank you so much for listening to me and for giving your full support and approval for this project.
Thank you. That concludes tonight's public comment.
Thank you, Melissa. The next item on the agenda are welcome comments from me as the Measure J chair, and with all due respect for the time of the people in the audience and the fellow commissioners, I want to take a few minutes and Director Parks Gonzalez, who's sitting in the back as well, to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about where we have been the last year, where we currently stand, and where we're going
in the future. About 8 months ago, we started with the application process, knowing that we had a budget of $6 million that we could apply to use for funds requested by members of the community and organizations within the community. And we used a form that was prepared by Council Commissioner Federer, Vice Chair Davis, and others. And I think in part because of the fact that Measure J was on the budget in November, we were deluged with 52 applications for millions and millions of dollars. There were no easy decisions to be made. Maybe one or two that were pretty simple, but by and large, they were all notable, valuable projects that we had to carefully analyze and make tough decisions on. So I think all of us on the commission have worked extremely hard over the last 8 or 9 months. We have whittled down those applications that we've approved to 16 or 17. And in a moment, I'm going to ask the Commission Secretary, Melissa Sanchez, to show you where we currently stand and where we might be at the end of tonight. But I want to thank all of the people who have appeared here. We've had hundreds of public comments. We've had people who have come to every single meeting, members of the public. We've had great attendance. We've had wonderful diligence. We've gotten along very well as commissioners, which isn't always the case. We've been respectful of each other. We've considered each other's opinions thoughtfully. I think that we have a wonderful commission, and I want to thank each and every one of you. I also want to thank the 3 principal city employees that we have that assist this commission. Commission Secretary Sanchez, Director of Finance and City Treasurer Mooney, and City Engineer Montalvo have been incredibly helpful to this commission. We also received input from the Parks Commission, not from the Director of Parks, that's coming later tonight. We also received input from the Sustainability Commission, and we considered carefully what those commissions recommended in making our decisions. None of them, as I said, were easy, but all of them were thoughtful, they were fair, and we respected the applicants and we listened to what they had to say. So with that, I want to thank all of the commissioners for the hard work over the past year. And I want to particularly thank Vice Chair Davis, who has sat to my side at every one of these meetings. Not only has kicked me under the table when I've made mistakes, but has also given me and answered the phone or responded to emails every time I have reached out to her for advice, and it's always been good advice back. So thank you all. So that is currently where we have come from. Where we currently are, I think Melissa will show you, I can pass these out. Melissa, can you put up the total that we have approved through March, to the March meeting?
Yes, let me look that up.
You can see both by the handout and now what's up on the screen, that as of our March meeting last month, we had approved a total of $5.224 and change million in recommendations to the city council for funding. There are, I believe, something in the order of 16 or 17 approvals. In addition, I asked Melissa to put together a chart of where we would be if we approved the 5 projects that last month we tabled in order to consider them in light of budget restrictions or funding restrictions we might have. And as you can see, if all 5 of those projects are approved at the numbers that we considered last month, we would be at $6,092,000 and change, which is $92,000 over our budgeted amount. We acquired the $6 million in budgeting because 2 or 3 years of allocation for publicly initiated projects was carried forward. So we had a banner year. And Chris, who's always very wise, added 20% as a contingency, so we have $7.2 million to work with. But as of tonight, which is the last substantive meeting, we have to get that $6,092,000 number under $6 million. So that's the task ahead of us tonight. And to help us with that, I've asked Park Director Gonzalez to look at 3 projects that at least tentatively were on parkland or near parkland or impacted parks. So Director Gonzalez, if you can come up to the microphone, we can hear what you have to say about those 3 projects.
All right, good evening, Measure J Commission. Thank you for having me. It's my first meeting with you all, so pleasure to see you. Again, I've only been here since December and already getting really involved in the community and looking at all of the different projects that are affecting our parks. So there are 3 items that were presented for me to look at. The first I want to talk about is the one that's over at Demuth Park for the public art piece. We met with Maura Gladstone, the project applicant, to talk that through a little bit more. Because of the application, it says it would adhere to the structure of the building. I have some significant concerns about that, being that the building is significantly old with no major renovations or improvements to the facility. So I've asked them to look at another way of actually putting that structure on the ground in front of the building instead. That should hopefully reduce some costs, but putting up a block wall and adhering public art to that. And so the applicant is okay with moving forward in that direction. And so we would recommend fully supporting that if that's how you all proceed with going and moving forward with that project. The other one is the public art piece over at Gateway Park. We met with the neighborhood organization to go over that project and make sure that it fits in line with the overall master plan and also with other public art piece that is going into that park currently. That being an entrance point and a gateway really into the city, we wanted to make that kind of more down the line in the future as kind of a more sculpture park of public art in that area. And so again, we would work with this applicants if they decide to move forward and you all approve it, and we would go ahead and move that somewhere in the park away from kind of the main monument sign, but it's closer down on the south side of the park. And so we would fully recommend that, and we would work with not only the Parks Commission but also Public Art to move that forward as well. The last one that we looked at wasn't really in Parkland. It's the gateway sign on the south side of the city, and a representative was here to talk about that this evening. But we still met with them to kind of talk through their application. It's for a monument sign as you're entering Palm Springs on Highway 111. And so as the applicant said earlier, they're looking for really just some city support as kind of a big welcome entrance along Highway 111 entering the city. And so if that is approved, we would work with them and pointing them in the right direction with other city departments and with the Arts Commission if that moves forward. And so we would fully help and support that from a staffing perspective. And so with that few modifications here and there, we will work with these applicants and we confirm that they are okay to be placed in Parkland.
Have you received any sort of indication from the Bayanihan people as to what the cost might be of the modified mural?
We haven't yet. They're still working on that. And so what they're looking now, it would still be a tile mural. It won't be as large because it's not adhering to the whole structure of the building and now going to be on the ground. So they're looking at sending us examples, but they haven't given us a full cost estimate of what that would look like. But because it doesn't have to adhere to the building, it would reduce the cost.
Appreciate you coming in tonight.
Yeah,
thank you
for sure.
much.
Thank you all.
The next item on the agenda is actually I think, vote on those three items that are in 8A. Review of the table of projects. I want to point out that those projects, as currently requested, total of about $257,000 of request. Therefore, if approved, we would not only have to reduce the $6.1 million number that we saw earlier tonight by $100,000, we would have to reduce it by about $375,000. So I just want to keep that in mind when we talk about each of these projects. The first project to consider is application number 17. That's the Palm Springs Sign Gateway Monument. And I would appreciate a motion from a member of the commission to approve that project. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, Melissa, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner, I'm sorry. Have any of these projects gotten any funding from the Art Commission?
I think Vice Chair Davis may know more about that than I do. I don't think that any of them have gotten any funding, and I don't know that any of them have even been approved by the Arts Commission.
That is correct.
Mayor.
I think I'm within my bounds and recusing from the vote, but I can still provide some background on the Biennial Desert Mural Project. Yes, I'll do it anyway. So this project actually was approved by the Public Arts Commission in, I want to say 2021 or perhaps 2022. My understanding of how that process goes is that it's initially approved, and then the applicant has to get a permit. In order to get that permit, you have to submit the final rendering of the artwork. After that, once the permit's issued, then later the funding comes into play. The reason that this project stalled out then was that there wasn't funding to retain the artist to do the final rendering, because they're just, but the Biennial Desert is not a formal nonprofit, it's a community group. They were also instructed to go to Parks and Rec Commission, which they did and were approved in the location. I'm kind of been going back and forth between those. So the Public Arts Commission did look at this, I think it was 2 separate meetings, and did vote to move forward with it. It's just that issue of funding is where things stalled.
Thank you for the update, Commissioner Walter. Any other comments?
Thank you. It's too bad we can't split the money and see that it gets done in some way. It's so worthy. And for the community, I feel strongly about that. But it's a big project with a lot of money behind it again. So it would be nice if we could collaborate with the Arts Commission and see that it could be done. But that may not happen at this table.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter. Any other comments?
I'd like to agree with Commissioner Puder that I would like to see these projects go forward. It's just that right now we don't have any idea how much it would really cost. And so that it's unfortunate that we have to vote tonight.
I want to make a comment. If we were going to be discussing reducing some of the amounts of the other ones, I think that we should do that first, or maybe not totally not consider their amounts because we haven't even discussed reducing the fees of the other ones that were already approved. So I think it should just be a yes or no approval, and then we can deal with the amounts later.
Not sure that I understand what you're saying, Commissioner. Think about, you would like us to say yes or no without regard to the dollar amounts at this point?
Well, because we did that for the other ones, and I don't want to say no for a project because we're not in agreement of the amount. I fully agree with supporting these projects, and I hate for the amount or not being able to split it with another commission to throw it out of the running.
I mean, I can't remember who made the initial motion to approve this, but whoever made it, are you willing to modify the motion to comply with whatever Commissioner Thigpen suggested?
Yes, I think the initial motion I made was just for the Gateway Monument project. So I think that would that be a new motion then if she's talking about all three projects?
Well, I've only mentioned that one because they were discussing the costs, and splitting it with the art commission. And so if we were gonna go that route and kind of discuss not approving it because of the cost, then I wouldn't want that to be a determination because of the costing and splitting it with the arts department or not. I wouldn't want that to be a criteria in me determining to vote.
As I understand what Commissioner Thigpen is saying, is all three of these ought to be either approved without dollar amounts or not approved. And then if they are approved without dollar amounts, move down to basically to item 8C on the agenda so that we can then decide where we need to trim and how much to trim for each of those projects. Is that fair, Commissioner Thigpen?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second to that amended motion?
I second that.
Can you do a roll call vote of that, please?
Who was the first? Who was the first?
Can I withdraw that original motion?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like then Commissioner Thigpen's motion with
Yeah,
substitutes
it's-
for the one that I made.
Perfect.
Restate what we're voting.
Okay, what we are voting on is whether or not we ought to tentatively approve application 17, 39, and 50 without dollar amounts considered, and then move them down to 8C on the agenda, where we can discuss how much we would be over budget and which of those projects we want to fund and which ones we would like or need to cut at that time. So that's the import of that motion. Right?
Commissioner Cabreros,
Agree.
Commissioner Fedor,
And support it.
Commissioner Isaac,
Aye.
Commissioner Schoen. Aye. Commissioner Thigpen,
Yes.
Commissioner Wolfer,
Can I vote on this?
You can recuse yourself from one of them if you want.
yeah.
Yeah, so I've recused myself from 50, so but I vote yes.
Well then, Thigpen, you're recusing yourself from 39 as well, correct?
I'm not in that one.
Shown is,
Oh,
I'm
yes.
sorry.
Yes, I'll recuse myself from 30.
Okay. And then Wolfer 50, okay. Okay, so we're doing Commissioner Wolfer, but recusing yourself from. Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes.
Chair Sipkins,
Yes.
motion passes.
That brings us to
Nine zero.
8P on the agenda, which has now been amended. 8P on the agenda is a presentation at our request by the Owen Coffin Post 519 American Legion Club of Palm Springs. And I understand somebody is making a presentation, and then we have the ability, because you are on the agenda, of asking you questions. So who is going to be making the presentation?
Me or?
My name is Kitty Kylie Hayes.
Oh, perfect.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Kitty Kylie Hayes. All of my 80 years, I have been a resident of Palm Springs. I want you to know how Post 519 Owen Kaufman Post of the American Legion was founded. Earl Kaufman and his brother George Roberson, who came to live in Palm Springs as pioneers in 1909, were both drafted and were in the United States Army in World War I and were sent to the Western Front in France. And when they returned 20 years later, they started the American Legion Post. It had no name because there was no one for whom to name it. On February 1st, 1920, Owen Bayless Kaufman was born in Palm Springs in a little tent top cottage on the grounds of the Desert Inn that had neither running water nor electricity. He went to Francis Nevin's School. He was a superior horseman. When he was 15, 17, and 18, he beat all the men of the village of Palm Springs in a race called the Riders Race. He went to Banning High School because Palm Springs did not have a high school. He was an outstanding athlete. He was a superior student. He attended the American Legion Boys State in the summer of 1937. He went to Stanford University, graduating in 1941. He enrolled in the United States Army Air Corps, and he went to Ontario to learn to fly airplanes. He got his ticket for flying his wings in Yuma. In December of 1943, he was assigned to Kearney, Nebraska, where they assembled the crew of the B-17 that he would pilot to England, and that's where they were based. They did several bombing runs to Germany, and on April 21st, 1944, they went on a bombing run to a munitions factory in Germany. And when all 300 of the planes got over the North Sea, the storm was so bad that they turned around and they were called back. And as Owen's plane got over land, it broke up in midair and he went down with a full bomb load. That was in 1944. The post in Palm Springs hadn't been named. In 1946, it was named in his honor because he was the first native-born Palm Springs person to be killed in action. In 1948, when the American Legion post that you see now was built, the Desert Inn, his family, gave all of the equipment for the kitchen, all the furnishings that were needed, the pots, pans, and the equipment in his honor. So the post has been going for all this time, and the gentleman will follow you telling you there are several parts to the American Legion. There are the American Legion itself. There are the American Legion Auxiliary. There are the Sons of the Legion, and there are the Riders. And the gentlemen who follow me will tell you the things that they do for this community, for veterans, and for military families. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Garth Gilpin. I'm the finance officer at the Post 519 for the last 8 years. We were asked to present information as to what the Post does, and I'll pass these around. These are packets that show our community involvement. They show the many aspects that we do. One of the main ones we do, if you'll notice over here to your this poster, we provide these posters in front of our American Legion on Bellardo Road. We also provide them over to the American Air Museum. We are affiliated with them. The Post is self-funded. We have dues, we have our canteen, and we have donations. COVID almost killed us. We had our canteen was closed basically for the 6-foot regulation. We sought a government loan to seek us through that information. We've just been able to restart repaying that loan. It's for $25,000. We are now financially in a better position where this year we can fund Boys and Girls State. If you don't know what that is, I'll explain it if someone wants to know. We have funded this year 8 American Legion baseball teams. American Legion baseball is in its 100th year this year. It provides high school athletes after the high school programs have ended. And currently there are 82 members in the Baseball Hall of Fame who played American Legion baseball. With us tonight is our commander, John Picken, our historian, Lee Wilson, and our proposed contractor, Ivan from Armada Construction. He's a local construction company. And we're here to, we heard you wanted to know what we do. So please ask questions.
Do you want to do your presentation? Do you want to do your presentation, your PowerPoint? You want the PowerPoint to be played?
Yeah, let me get Lee Wilson. You come up and the PowerPoint.
No, no worries.
Hi folks, my name is Lee Wilson Jr. Been a Palm Springs resident since 1997. I teach world history and US history at Cathedral City High School, 28 years. After my service in the Marine Corps, I also served in the Peace Corps as an English teacher in Poland. So I got some cool stories on that. Direct your attention to the screen. I kind of threw together a PowerPoint presentation, kind of echoing what Kitty Kylie Hayes just mentioned a few moments ago about her uncle, Owen Bayless Kaufman, who was killed in World War II. And here we go. You can kind of see how we were built in 1948. There's how we look today, and on the bottom right with an artist restoration of where we're going to be in the future. As Kitty mentioned, we're working with the Palm Springs Preservation Foundation with the architect Susan Sequoia Jensen, and she's done some renditions for us. Here's a picture of Nellie Kaufman, the matriarch of Palm Springs, with their two sons, George on the right and Earl on the left. Earl, again, was the founder of our Palm Springs American Legion. This is Owen Kaufman, again, who we're named for. And were named for him because he was the first local kid killed in World War II. And his father founded our Palm Springs Post. Fundraising to build our post began in 1944, and part of that, Frank Sinatra and Mickey Rooney also did fundraising for us. And we were dedicated in, we had loans donated by Pearl McManus, you probably recognize that name, and also Nellie Kaufman. Those are our lands that our building is on. We're designed by these two guys. I'm sure you've heard these names, John Porter Clark and Albert Frey. And I understand we're technically not a modern building. We're called Moderne. We're like pre-modernism. We've got a lot of modernism features, but we also have like pre-modernism features at our post. And the most unique thing about us is this very rare for Southern California. It's called a lamella. You kind of see it's a sort of arch thing. And it's made out of wood frames. It's not a Quonset hut, but it gives you this big open space without having pole support. Now, unfortunately, it is covered by ugly tiles now. We were built by this guy, Earl Picard, was killed in World War II, and his father was Ryland Picard. He was the contractor that built our post, and it was dedicated January 1st, 1948. And somebody had the wherewithal to make sure that we had a lot of the local Hollywood gentry performing on our stage. So from 1948 to 1954, some of the biggest names in Hollywood performed on our stage. The national broadcast radio shows on CBS and NBC, and some of the biggest sponsors of the day, including Rexall Drugs, General Electric, Crap Music Hall. Very first show was Bob Hope and Jerry Colonna on our stage, and that went out on CBS Coast to Coast. Later on, we had a season with the Crap Music Hall, Al Jolson. Al Jolson brought with him Eddie Arnold, Groucho Marx, David Niven, Doris Day, even Judy Garland's been on our piano. Jack Benny Show did a season on our stage. And also after that, we also had the Phil Harris Alice Faye Show, which is really funny. If you guys listen to that stuff online, they are really, really clever. Anyways. We also had Big Crosby do 5 shows, and he brought on Jimmy Stewart and Rosemary Clooney with him. So we have an extensive Hollywood history, which is even a lot of ways better than the Plaza Theater. In the late 50s, they kind of turned our post into a county courthouse. They covered up our ugly stage with that ugly, ugly paneling. And our radio broadcast room where the engineers sat was also turned into a storage room. But they first started restoring it in 1999, was our first restoration. And then the second restoration took place in 2015 with our amateur radio show. Oh, by the way, also, we're a Class 1 Palm Springs Historic Site. And a couple of years ago, somebody jacked our original plaque, so that's our replacement plaque. All right, but here's what our radio room looked like a few years ago. We have some of the original equipment that was used during this national broadcast booth. And on the next slide, you can see what we kind of look like today. And I invite everybody at this table to come and check us out and see for yourself the history behind this place. We got the original equipment, all these stars performed on our stage. It really is the crown jewel of our Legion Post. Our 1907 Steinway, we're working on getting that thing restored. That Steinway Company, again, Al Jolson, and some of the biggest names have been on there. We still entertain every Friday. And so anybody in this room, if you're a veteran, your parents served, or a child or spouse served, you can join our Sons or Auxiliary. And we've been a part of our community since 1934. And we started doing a lot of things. We're out there, like Lake right now for Village Fest. We're always out there helping veterans with their veterans claims and stuff like that. And we are also leading the Pride Parade. We've been doing that for the last 5 years. And that's quite an honor too. And I also do these fallen hero banners every year. Now I got a very short, briefer presentation on Susan Sequoia Jensen. She is the architect that through the Palm Springs Preservation Foundation, when we were given a grant of what we can look like if we restore this place. And trust me, folks, this is gonna be one of the unsung Palm Springs crown jewels. Every bit as important as the Plaza Theater restoration. This restoration is gonna be just as important, considering the architectural history we have and the Hollywood history. And I have this short little MPEG that's put together by Susan Sequoia Jensen. Here's an artist rendition, what we look like after her restoration. Current, state where, parking lot looks like and such. But we've been very, very lucky, the Preservation Foundation giving us this grant. They spent almost $50,000 on us to rebuild our blueprints and have Susan Sequoia do all this. But coming up is like the money shot, where if we do this restoration of the lamella ceiling, you can see we're gonna put in some solar panels on the side parking lot. We're gonna move our memorial area off to the side of the parking lot also. It's kind of what we look like today, but the money shot is coming on. Our current condition. We're replacing our sign too. Susan Yoon from the Public Works has been very helpful getting our sign replaced. And those windows, the entranceways, those things are unique also to Albert Frey architecture. They kind of went out in the late 1940s. This kind of describes what a lamella ceiling is. What we have, here's a cutaway portrait. Our stage, we've got a great sound system. We have one of the best. All right, right there, pause it there. This is what, if we took down the ugly ceiling tiles and restored this to its original, there's nothing like this in Southern California that has this kind of beauty to it. Now I got a photo coming up what it used to look like in the old days. That's our bar area. Coming up, you'll see our stage. What we used to look like right there, you can kind of see the photo on the left. This is what we could look like if we restore.
This one?
No, keep going. Right. This is another restoration photo. And right there, you can kind of see what 1948 photo on the ceiling. You got those centimeters. Right now, you see that on the right, the ugly ceiling tiles that are blocking it, just killing the place. Okay. But tell me, if we wouldn't get people from all over the world for Modernism Week, they would be flooding to come and see this if this was restored. This would be every bit as important as anything else that takes place during Modernism Week.
Do you have shots of the updated kitchen?
No, I don't have the updated kitchen photos.
Oh.
That's our back bar, what our back bar would look like since restored. Originally, when it opened, there was no bar in the main hallway. It was just one big auditorium that could fit 400 people in there. I guess that's really it for me, unless anybody else has any questions. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry if I missed this in presentation, but how many members or families are part of the post today?
There's approximately 650 veterans that are members of the Legion. Roughly, I believe around 450 to 500 members of each the auxiliary and sons. And the Riders got maybe 50 people.
So just to understand the membership in Palm Springs for this particular post?
We have members that are all over the world actually, but they're members of our post because they really like the architecture, they're really into Hollywood history. You can join any American Legion in the world and still go visit the Legion. And that's true with all these sons or auxiliary. Anybody in the stream to join it, you can go anywhere you want.
All right, thank you.
I have three questions and I think that perhaps Garth is the right one to come up and answer.
All right, thank you, folks.
Thank you.
I
Yes, sir.
want to start with the hardest question. The ask that your application requests is for $280,000 for 3 phases.
Okay.
Those 3 phases, according to my notes, are the kitchen remodel, the bar remodel, and a general interior remodel. And you provided great detail from Armada or the construction company about the costs. I've totaled up those 3 estimates. And while you asked for $280,000, the support you provided is only for $183,000.
That's correct.
Where did the extra $100,000 come from?
The extra 100,000 came from one of the insurances that we were not certain what it was. Our building insurance went 2 years ago went from 9,000 to 25,000. It's back down to 12,000 now, but one of those things we just don't know. I had a meeting with Scott Stiles, and Scott Stiles looked me square in the eye and he said, "What? How much do you basically need to do it?" I told him I need $200,000, and that will get us through to the position of. And I want to be very clear on this: that the money we're asking for is strictly for the back functioning areas of the post. The lamellar ceiling project, which would be our phase 2, we've had a local foundation say they will be interested in funding that, and we have 2 national foundations out of San Diego who say they are interested in funding the lamellar ceiling. We talked to them about the whole project, and they get a little shy. They said, "Well, get your building functional, and then we'll do the lamellar ceiling." So this money will have nothing to do with the lamellar ceiling portion. We'll do the back areas, get the restrooms up to grade, get the kitchen up to grade, the our office area, which is horrible. Get it where we have a functioning building, and then we will go out, and as soon as we find out how much money we get from Measure J, we will start getting funding requests or construction estimates on the lamellar ceiling portion, and that will go out to the general contractors, and that money will go to these foundations to redo the lamellar ceiling. So
So if I understand correctly, some of the $280,000 request has to do with operating costs such as insurance.
That we do not know. We know we need to have outside toilets. We know we need to have a taco truck come in while our kitchen is down. The basic costs, I'm like everybody else, you got to put some fudge in. And so when Mr. Stiles asked me at our meeting, I told him, I said, I can do it for $200,000. And I hope that answers your question on
You
that.
do it for $200,000, but you asked for $283,000. Right.
That was the original, yes. We sent a note to Melissa that we had our ice machine went down, and we had donations of $3,000 from one source. We were able to get the machine for just under $10,000, so we reduced our initial request. Sent her that information to reduce it to $270,000.
Second question I have, and I don't want you to think by asking these questions that I'm opposed to the project, because we all approved it at the last meeting, is of those 3 phases, kitchen, bar, and interior remodeling, how would you prioritize those 3 in terms of importance to you going forward?
I would put the bar as third, and the other 2 are an absolute must.
And then the last question is, we received correspondence today from a Palm Springs resident, I'm not sure you've seen it, that said that when he was recently here for perhaps modernism, he attempted to visit the American Legion Club and was turned down and told that he could not enter the club, that it was not open to the public. Is that accurate or not accurate?
That is accurate. We have a veterans liquor license, and we were under a probation a year and a half ago because we allowed people in who were not members of the American Legion or the American Legion Sons or auxiliary members. And so for the last year, we've been very strict in being sure that people are true members of the American Legion. And so if you come in and you do not have an American Legion card that is up to date, then you're not allowed in. And the reason we were on probation is people would come in and people sitting at the bar would say, oh yeah, come on in, I'll sign you in. And they would sign them in. And two members of the Liquor Control Board came in one day. They went by Betty, who was our 93-year-old lady. And she, I don't know if you know Betty, but she's a local figurehead. And she was busy and they bypassed her. And they sat at the bar, had a drink, left. They came back the next week and the barmaid on attendance at that time recognized them, so she served them without asking for their identification.
We attempted to upgrade your veteran's liquor license to a general liquor license.
We have, and the problem is the membership is a camaraderie that once you put that uniform on and it has United States Army, Navy, Marine, Air Corps, Coast Guard, there's a bonding there that's very hard to describe. The Sons, a very active organization. Their fathers were members of one of those organizations. The auxiliary is a membership of basically of women who are wives, daughters, granddaughters, or grandmothers. Or if you're if a woman was a member, then her son, grandsons, granddaughters can be a member as an auxiliary. The riders are people who provide motorcycle events for funerals, parades. They are also regular American Legionnaires. So.
Well, I thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate your coming today.
No.
Do any other commissioners have questions?
Hi, thank you for coming in this evening. Have you secured any other funding? Do you have any other funding available for any of this work so far?
I just cannot anticipate coming back to the Measure J for additional funding once we get this back area done.
I guess I'm asking if you've secured funding from other sources already to pay for part of the restoration work.
No,
we're your first ask for funding.
Yes, you are. The one local foundation, he's a member, he attends Palm Springs about 6 months a year. His father was a veteran, left an establishment, and he has told me once we get to the Lamello ceiling part, they will match it 50-50. And I do not have that in writing, but he's told me that several times. There's a group out of San Diego who do nothing but restore American Legion buildings throughout the United States. They have visited the facility and love the drawings and everything, and they just say, it's, you know, they say you got to do something yourselves, and so we're here saying we'd appreciate your help.
Any other? Commissioner Walker.
Thank you. This is really helpful, the sheet that lists the synopsis of all of the activities, and it looks like you do a lot of work with other organizations through support, like the sponsoring local Boy and Girl Scout troops, and you mentioned like participation in parade and leading the Pride Parade. Could you talk a little, is the current condition of the building impacting your ability to kind of provide these services? And you know, I hear this, that there is, I think I'm sensing a little bit of a concern with the availability of the building to the public. But I do see that beyond that you are very active in the community and supporting other groups. So I think it would be really helpful if you could maybe explain to us a little bit about how this restoration would maybe enhance your ability to.
Can I get the commander picking up to answer that? He's in the day-to-day. I just do sit in the back to do the numbers and write the checks. So let me get the commander picking up to answer that.
Good evening, Commissioners. John Picken, Commander.
Welcome.
Pardon?
I said welcome.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've got hearing aids too, so I don't always hear everything. Before we get to your questions, I just wanted to know that the package we put together includes a newsletter and a magazine that goes out to the nation from the American Legion National Office. So you'll see the magazine there and you'll see our local newsletter. Now, to your question, could you repeat that question for me, please?
Yes, yes. So I'm seeing all of these really amazing activities providing emergency support for LA fire victims. You see that you work with our local Boys Girl Scout troops. And basically it seems like the Legion does a lot of activities that are in partnership with other groups and other members of the community, even, you know, if maybe there isn't, even if the club itself isn't open to the general public. So I'm just interested if the current condition of the building is impacting your ability to do these activities and to support these other groups, or put a different way, how this restoration could maybe help the Legion do more in the community.
Well, one of the things that we do is we have, and you'll see on our listing there, a number of sponsored events like the Law Enforcement Appreciation Dinner, Vietnam Veterans Dinner. So we're sitting in a building that is, to put it bluntly, is a little ancient and has infrastructure problems, like our restrooms and stuff like that need to be updated. Some people, when they come in that building, they kind of go, well, it's an old building. We don't want to be here. We all feel that when we do our renovation, we'll be able to open it up to more events like that. We'll get more recognition. We'll bring more people into Palm Springs. Now, going back to the membership, people, the public, general public, on those events that we have like that, we actually get a one-day liquor license that opens it up to everybody. That's the ABC, that's Alcohol Beverage Control Law. And somebody mentioned about getting a general license. We can't do that without losing our charity status. We have a 501c3 19, all that fun stuff, all those letters and numbers that goes to the state and to the feds. So we're restricted that way, just like other clubs like the Elks or the Eagles and things like that. They're not open to the public either. You have to be a member or you get brought in by a member and signed in. That's been the parameters of our whole operation. Like I said, we do have events that we open up to the public, and we're allowed 1 day a year to open up to everybody. And we were actually talking about having it open up during Modernism Week for 1 day, that we can do that. Again, ABC is very strict on what we can't and can't do. Their laws say that when you have the veterans license, it has to be open to American veterans. And some of those, and we love our Canadians, I really do. We signed some of our Canadians in, but we've had a pushback from a group of Canadians that come down because they can't get in without having somebody sign them in. That's just what happens there. I don't know if I've answered your question or extrapolated too much on that. Sorry. Anybody else have anything? Just real quick, again, the synopsis is 1 page, but it's also 3 pages with a little bit of history. And you'll notice that one of our tribal leaders, Milanovich, is on our wall of fame, a memorial wall, along with our current mayor and past mayor. They're also members of our Legion. The current mayor is a son of an American Legion, of a veteran. Again, we do a lot of work for veterans. I was on the phone today with a lady who has a wheelchair that she wants to donate so we can give it to a veteran. We have a storeroom. It's actually our meeting room with a few wheelchairs, walkers and stuff like that, which we give out, give back, give out, give back. You know, so we're supplying to the general public that way also.
Maybe just a quick follow-up question on that. So is the Legion the only kind of hub or organization that is serving veterans like that in the city of Palm Springs?
Yes. We did have the VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars, up in Desert Hot Springs. They closed last November. Actually, they gave up their charter just recently, but they closed the building in November due to some improprieties that went on out there. So, anybody else?
I think this project is fascinating in all kinds of ways. As Kitty told you, the kitchenware came from Millie Kaufman Desert Inn. Imagine that in your home today. So it's old, it's historical, it does great work. I really feel connected to the VFW. I like to walk by and look at what's going in, but you do great work and the building is really a classic, beautiful building.
Thank you very much. I mean, the American Legion to me is my pet project now. I got out of the Marine Corps a long time ago. I did 4 years in the Marine Corps, but I was in public service for 36 years. And me being the commander, which is an elected position, which I'm very proud of the fact that we've done a lot of good stuff in the last 2 years that I've been commander. We've reached out to many people. We've done food banks. We've taken food to rehab facilities. We supplied food to the Veterans Center over in Cathedral City, and the local rehabs and everything like that. So it's an ongoing project, and we're always constantly bringing it up. We have fundraisers. We just did a fundraiser last Saturday for the Palm Springs Animal Rescue, or the what do you shelter. Thank you. I get a little tongue tied sometimes talking. Yeah, we do a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of good things. I think that whatever happens here, we'll still continue doing the best we can with whatever we have. Again, it's our pet project for getting this done, but we continue to help our veterans, and that's our primary responsibility. We are a veteran service organization, and if you read the little paragraph there in the beginning of our dissertation, you'll see that.
Thank you, Commander, for coming in.
You're welcome.
Thank all of the American Legion folks who are here tonight answering our questions. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, now I think it's time to move down to 8C on the agenda, and 8C now includes those 3 items that were initially part of 8A. So taking them in order, and I want to remind everyone that since we've now included those 3 projects in 8C that were once in 8A, we are now approximately $375,000 over budget. So we will need to cut $375,000 out of one or all of those 8 projects. I don't know that any of those 8 projects request $375,000. Chris, do I have the numbers correct?
Say it one more time.
I said, if you add the 3 projects that are in 8A on the agenda with the 5 projects that are on 8C on the agenda, we are at about $6.45 million. We need to cut, or maybe $6.4 million. We need to cut $375,000 to $400,000 out of the 8 applications that we remain to vote on tonight.
Approximately right, yeah.
Roughly accurate. Chair Shipman, question? Commissioner Isaac.
What is the total for these 8 projects?
I have 1,129,628. 1,129,628.
1,429,000.
1,129,000.
129. Okay. Thank you.
And we're about roughly $750,000 under budget without considering these 8 projects.
Right.
All right. Taking them in order, the first item on the agenda then to consider is application 17, which is the 1PS Cape Castle, a request for funding for the Gateway Monument to the entrance to St. Springs. Is there a motion to approve funding of that request?
Chair Simpkins, question?
Yes.
Could we have the amounts? We have the amounts for 17, 39, and 50. Could we get the amounts? I just want to write them down beside the other 5, or the other 5.
I can tell you that.
Okay.
The Owen Kaufman American Legion request was $280,980.
They're also in the new business tab?
I know, I'm just trying to.
So
Give them right here.
$280,980 of which $183,000 was supported by documentation. The nature in our backyard creating an urban forest at Prescott Reserve is $259,000. And while we're on that one, let me mention that the Prescott Preserve folks have asked for a slight modification in that application. They would like to include the ability to water the trees that they purchase. And since Chris will be in charge of paying whatever bills are being submitted, he's gonna make sure that if we do approve finally $259,000, it can go for both water and for trees. So I just wanted to make that point. The downtown
Chair, can I just clarify, it's for irrigation? Repairs to, or some connections to existing irrigation.
Yes, they asked to modify the use of funds to include irrigation plus trees, which means they probably will reduce the number of trees they buy to be able to afford irrigation.
Application 21, the downtown project sidewalk improvements, is a request for $183,108. The First Baptist Church is $100,000 request. And the last request that we'll consider tonight is a grant for the neighborhood light signs on traffic lights only of $44,600 and change. Did that answer your question?
Thank you.
All right. Back on, I think we need a motion to consider application number 17. The application is the Palm Springs sign gateway monument. Is there a motion to approve that funding?
You don't have a motion, guys.
We don't have a motion, it's not approved. Is there a second chance, is there a motion?
You're gonna do that.
If not, that project is not approved. The next item on the agenda is application 39, Gateway Park Public Art. Is there a motion to approve that particular project? Yeah, and in the absence of a motion, that project is not approved, that application is not approved. And the next item is the Bayalahan Desert Mural. That project is request for you know the number?
145.39.
140, okay. Is there a request, is there a motion with respect to that particular project application?
I'll make a motion.
A second.
No. Sorry. You need to recuse yourself. Yeah. I was supposed to recuse myself for 30 minutes. Oh, but. There was no motion. There was no motion, yes.
Promise to bring it back in, Commissioner Wolfer. Right, and in the absence of Commissioner Wolfer, alternate Commissioner Newby, you get to vote tonight because I think last month you got to vote. All right. There's a motion and a second with respect to this. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Newby.
I'm supportive of this project and concerned about the questions with respect to financing it. And hearing that there are private organizations that have been trying for a number of years to raise the funds. They're not a nonprofit organization, they're trying to raise funds for, sounds like a number of years. And have not been able to do that. So my concern is that if the commission approves this, and it ends up not being enough to cover the costs of the project, what's going to happen to the project? So I have some reservations in that.
Are there any other comments from commissioners?
I just support it. when I was 13, there was a project like this in my community at the Desert Highland Park, and Richard Wright was one of the artists, and there were several people, young adults or young kids that were allowed to participate in that project. And like the speaker discussed, it speaks volumes to the next generation. And I was one of those chosen to actually be an artist with Richard Wright and have my name on that wall at the James O. Jesse Unity Center. And so I think this will be very good from a cultural standpoint and also for the Filipino youth and the future generation. And so I just support it regardless of how much money it costs.
What it's worth, my comments are that, well, sounds like it's a wonderful organization and a bureau that's needed. In the absence of knowing exactly what it costs or where it might be going in the park, and in light of the comments of the former chair of the Public Arts Commission, that we don't know what the materials are or how they're gonna withstand weather or how much it's gonna cost, I'm reluctant to approve it at this point in time. So that's my own view. Any other comments? If not, we have a roll call vote, please.
Who did the first motion?
I'm
Who
sorry.
was first and second? And second motion? Commissioner Cavaderos,
Funded.
Commissioner Federer,
Funded.
Commissioner Isaac,
Not fun.
Commissioner Chong,
Funded.
Commissioner Thigpen,
Funded.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Fund it.
Vice Chair Davis,
Not fun.
Chair Sipkins,
Did not fund.
Commissioner Newby.
Fun.
6-3 motion passes.
Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is,
Commissioner Wilbur.
yeah, I'm sorry. I promised I'd let it back in. That last vote, how much do we need to reduce the remaining 5 by?
232,550.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, neighborhood blade signs, that was a $44,000 request by 1PS for blade signs that go up on traffic lights, particularly those that abut more than one neighborhood organization. Is there a motion to fund that request? Make a motion to fund that request. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments?
Commissioner Cavaderos,
Do not fund.
Commissioner Federer,
Do not fund.
Commissioner Isaac,
Do not fund.
Commissioner Chong,
Fund.
Commissioner Thigpen,
Fund.
Commissioner Wolfer,
Fund.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Fund.
Vice Chair Davis,
Fund.
Chair Sipkins,
Fund.
7-2 motion passes.
Thank you.
Question, before we proceed, can I ask a question?
Of course.
Since we kind of not really narrowed down, but discussed a difference between the amount of money that the post asked, would they consider reducing that amount? So the difference of what we kind of concluded, there was $100,000 difference. They consider,
Are we Yeah, you can ask, as long as they have representatives here, if they would be willing to accept $180,000.
Just for chairman citizens.
Yes.
Yeah. Before we do that, how much do we have left for these other 4 projects, and what are these other 4 projects total? So just so we all have the same numbers in front of us.
The 539,000, 180,000. And 100,000, whatever those 4 totals.
I'm looking at the guy that's doing the calculation.
He's got it. He's doing it.
4 remaining projects on this page, it's gonna be 823,088. And then if you add in the mural project. It's 963,627. So you still have to shave off $232,550. That's the amount that you have to trim to get down to the 6 million.
And did you include the?
So you've already approved the 44,000, that's fully funded.
Yeah.
That's fully funded, 44,000. You gotta shave 232,550 off to the rest of
The remaining 4 projects.
the remaining 5 projects.
Aren't the only 4 address, there's the American Legion, there's the Prescott Preserve, there's the downtown sidewalk improvements, and the First Baptist Church.
And the mural.
But the mural has already been approved. Is we can still shave money off of that, is that what you're saying?
Has it been approved to be fully funded? So you've got the 5, all of the projects that we're discussing tonight, the 5 projects. We're overfunded by 232. So of that, you gotta find 232,000 to shave off some of them. So every project can't be approved by fully funded. You gotta cut some of the project costs down some. It's.
So.
Was the mural approved fully funded? At 140,000?
I think there was just.
I believe it was.
Yeah, I think he did.
I believe it was.
Okay, so if that's been approved fully funded, then you have 4 projects to work with to shave off $232,000.
And the total of those 4 is how much?
Well, I don't know that it matters. You gotta shave off 232,000.
Let's talk about the next item on the agenda and see if we can get that number down. Next item on the agenda is application 21, downtown project sidewalk improvements. That's a project, application that was made by Grit for improving the, inserts in the sidewalk on the east side of Palm Canyon. And that was tentatively approved for $183,108. Is there a motion to finally approve that project for the full amount?
This is a sidewalk project.
This is the sidewalk project.
It's important, I was downtown today and I think it's really not very clean and neat and tidy on the sidewalks and it's a danger if people fall. It's also a problem.
Brett is a business, is Brett a business?
Brett?
Oh, yeah, so they have money, they generate incomes where they can fund this themselves?
Yes.
Okay.
And just to clarify, Joelle, this is city property.
Yeah.
The sidewalks, correct? And Grit was the applicant?
So I don't remember reviewing it exactly. There are portions of the sidewalk within the downtown area that are within private areas that the city has easements over.
So there are portions into mix and match, and I don't remember exactly where this one in particular was. It could be in that area where it's completely fully private, but the city has needed to walk over.
But otherwise, the city also maintains a big portion of the sidewalk downtown, it's the city's.
So there, yeah, so typically the way the city operates is the business owners, the adjacent property owners maintain their own sidewalks. The city cleans them, they people go out there and do maintenance of the sidewalks, but if there is something that's out of place. We do request, actually, there's code enforcement involved, if it is non-ADA compliant, then the business property owners are actually obligated to go through them.
So I think that would be helpful to know whose responsibility is this city's responsibility and Grid just happens to be adjacent to it and it's
Yes,
requesting
again,
it or.
the city does not have any responsibility for repair of the sidewalks anywhere, it's the
Anywhere.
adjacent property owner that's brought this.
Is this by chance in front of the theater? That they're talking about now, or do you know?
I can't confirm that right now, I don't remember it ever being involved with that from the theater, but right now I can't remember. If it was there or not.
For some reason, Commissioner Fodder, I thought this was for sidewalk repairs north of Tackwitz, not in front of the theater.
That's my memory. East side of Palm Canyon from Tackwitz Canyon to Andreas.
Okay.
Has there been a motion? I don't remember any longer. No, is there a motion to support the grant application of $183,108 for sidewalk repair? In the absence of a motion, that project is no longer funded. The next item on the agenda is First Baptist Church. Commissioner Thigpen is recusing herself. It is a $100,000 request.
Chair, can I just interject something really quick? So since that project has not been funded, the commission only has to shave off $49,392.
We can do that.
Chair Simpkins, I'll move approval of this project.
Yeah, I second it.
Second. Oh, yeah, you
Is
just-
that at the full amount, $50,000?
Yes.
Is there any comments about the First Baptist Church application? Right, if not, call for a roll call vote.
To fully approve the
Fully
honor.
approved.
Okay. Commissioner Cabreros,
Support funding.
Commissioner Federer,
Funded.
Commissioner Isaac,
Funded.
Commissioner Schoen,
Funded,
Commissioner Wolfer,
funded,
Commissioner Hopkins,
Funded.
Commissioner Newby,
Funded.
Vice Chair Davis,
Fund.
Chair Sipkins.
Fund.
9-0 motion passes.
So the last item on the agenda. And two more. Next item on the agenda is application 43, nature in our backyard, Prescott Preserve, and I think there are two recusals. With respect to that. Commissioner Hopkins and Vice Chair Davis. Yeah, I heard you correctly, Director Mooney, we're about $43,000 over budget,
About 50,000.
about $50,000. Okay. This is a request for $259,000 for Prescott Preserve for trees and irrigation repairs. Is there a motion to approve this project in full?
Did she, I remember before when she was there, she discussed reducing the amount. Has the amount been reduced since then? Yeah.
It's 259.
Okay.
The amount is still $259, but it's now for two different things, is that correct? It's for both irrigation and for trees. Yes, okay. Is there a motion to approve this project at $259,000?
Motion to approve.
Okay, Commissioner Schultz made the motion, is there a second? Or make the second? Any discussion?
I will approve at a lower amount, maybe if they'll consider, you know, if we could shave a little bit off of this one, and then the other one, maybe if they take off, like 25 to 50,000. Would they consider that?
Commissioner Thigpen, I think what you're asking is to reduce like an equal amount of the next two items would be considered, would be taking $25,000 off of this application and $25,000 off of the Kaufman request, the American Legion request.
Well, I mean, even if we. Sorry, if we, I hate the way, not that you, anything against you, but if we already knew that 47 didn't have the full amount, or they didn't have the supporting documents for the full amount. If we cut theirs to what they did have, the 183, then we wouldn't have to cut anything for the nature reserve, because we would have enough money and a little bit over it.
That is correct.
So if we change the order and voting, then
Well, we just,
I guess vote.
after what you just said, we can just. That's what I had to vote on this.
Yeah.
I do want to clarify that the, just because I'm not sure if I'm remembering correctly, but the initial request from Osgood was closer to.
455,000 or something like that.
So she's already cut it.
So this has
Yeah.
been, this request has already been stepped down to about like 50% of what their initial ask was, is that correct?
That is
497.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just wanna add one thing. Because I am dealing with a lot of remodel projects here in Palm Springs. Generally, you discover a lot of things that you don't want to discover as soon as you start touching the project. So from the American Legion's perspective, I wouldn't wanna take that money away. I think that you would wanna have that extra buffer there, because as soon as you start touching that building, they're gonna discover a lot of things that are, you know, a surprise, and they're gonna probably need more money. So they just take that into consideration before there's also.
It reminded me of the Plaza Theater issue.
Every project I work on, for the most part, so I would just take
On
that.
the other hand, Joel, there is a $1.2 million contingency fund built into this, so if the project costs more, there is money available ultimately if needed, so it's not as if we're stopping the project.
Sure.
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanna say that the American Legion project is the last place I would take money from. These people did a heck of a job here tonight. In presenting the need. Tremendous. Maybe we should put all the projects back on. If we can't fund that. Because we funded some projects. And you know, I've talked about them. That have very limited use. And the American Legion is serving dozens of organizations beyond the American Legion. So that's the last place I'd cut. Right now, from my own standpoint, and based on the job these people did here tonight. It was honest. It was straightforward. And yes, we were a little disappointed that they didn't show up earlier, but they really showed up tonight.
Yeah.
So I feel strongly about that. And I'll just state my point. Thank
I'll
you.
just add.
I appreciate your
My
comments.
reasoning for saying cutting, it wasn't just because, it was because when he asked the questions and he asked dollar amounts, they couldn't support the full 283. They could only support 183. So that, but with his point, I mean, I think that's great to have a cushion. But that was the only reason. I do respect it. I have several people in my family that are veterans, and I understand, and they do frequent and go to lunch there. But my ask of cutting it was only because when he asked those 3 questions, they couldn't support the full ask amount. So that was the only reason why. And I just want to make that publicly so that they understand as well.
Mr. Chair, if I can quickly respond. And I understand that Commissioner thing, Ben, and this was not meant in anything you said. What I was saying was about the need, and what Joel said, that's an old building.
Yeah.
So a lot of problems they're gonna run into. And I just assumed not give it to them. If they don't spend it all, it'll come back, okay? And based on the conversation we had with them tonight, they were straightforward and honest about it. And based on the number of organizations they serve, I mean, that project probably serves more organizations than most of the projects we've had in front of us for the last 6 months. So that's my impassioned plea, and we'll see.
Commissioner Isaac, I want to say that in response to your suggestion that maybe we go back and reconsider other projects. That is something that we're not able to do. That as of the end of March, those projects that were approved for whatever amounts they were approved, have been approved and will stay approved at those amounts. Is that correct? Director Harmony? Sorry, I'm trying to put you on the spot.
The commission can really do whatever they want. So those projects have been approved, they are on record as being approved. The commission chose to go back and arrange funding of one of them, and the commission can do so.
But we have to have another meeting in May before the budget meeting at the end of May, obviously.
Well, ideally, you could resolve tonight.
Right now, yeah.
We would have to go back to all.
No, not all of them. If there was one particular one you thought you could adjust funding on, you can.
Commissioner Simpkins, I'd like to make a motion, or not a motion, but I'd like to offer a middle ground on these last two projects. That we reduce each of them by $25,000. And we still give the Legion very close to what they asked, and we give $259 for nature preserve, less 25. And I offer that as a compromise.
Which I think was the. Commissioner, think that wasn't that your motion as well?
Hey, you know what?
We told her it's our idea.
It's okay. It's okay. That's a great idea.
Is there a second to the motion by either Commissioner Thigpen or by Commissioner Isaac?
What is the motion?
The motion is to reduce each of the next two applications, that is Prescott Preserve and the Kaufman American Legion Post by $25,000 each in order to bring us within budget.
I just make a comment that I like it when we hear from new people, and we have given a lot of money to the Prescott Preserve over the years. And that is a worthy project also. But I think coming up with that alternative here is a good solution. Going back over all the work the commission has done, that's a lesson for next year. To think about how you go over budget and how you're going to solve that problem, because that's a year's work we've done. So I really think the Legion is here. I support it 100%. If you can do it by 25,000, that's a drop in the bucket. And I would support that.
Are there any other comments? Any other comments on the joint motion by Commissioner Thigpen and?
The financial wizard.
If not, can you do a roll call vote, please? What is that? It is for, to reduce each of the two remaining applications by $25,000.
Commissioner Cavaderos?
Agree.
Commissioner Fedor?
I agree.
Commissioner Isaac?
Agree.
Commissioner Chone?
Agreed.
Commissioner Thigpen?
I agree.
Commissioner Wolfer?
Yeah.
Commissioner Kravitz?
Oh, she can, oh, gosh.
Commissioner Kravitz?
Definitely yes.
Commissioner Newby?
Yes.
Chair Sipkins?
Yes.
9-0 motion passes.
Right.
Wow.
Thank you all. Can you bring back those two commissioners who have recused themselves, please?
Yes, that was perfect. All the time. Yes.
Excusing himself for the rest of the meeting. City Engineer Montalvo, you have a request for funding for the swim center renovation.
Yeah, I actually would like to invite the director of Parks and Rec here. Come on, do it.
I wondered why he was here for the entire meeting. Now I know. This is bordering on long, lasting as long as the city council meetings.
Good afternoon, Commissioner, Joe Mahal, City Engineer. So yeah, the swim center project has been an ongoing project that was actually a community initiated project and grew into different requests, right? And eventually we grouped the whole project together, and part of the process was to get community input, to go out to the community, see what they wanted, and that process all played out over a long period of time. Unfortunately, the director that was managing that project left the city, so I sort of decided that we needed to kind of put the project on hold a little bit until the new director was able to come on board, have some breathing time, understand what was going on with the rest of his project, and then he was comfortable that we would bring this project forward, and then based on his decisions, if he was actually comfortable with what was designed, or if he wanted to get a different direction. So I think Nick has gotten up to speed, and I'd like him to kind of give his input on this project, and then the request ultimately is to fund the design portion of this center.
And as I understand it, showing all this money would not come out of obviously the $6 million, but rather out of the normal budget of Desert J.
That is correct. This now has become a capital project. The community share created portion of this has been closed, and now it's a fully funded, a fully capital project.
Right, yeah, go ahead.
Sure, thank you so much. So as Joel was mentioning, I've been catching really up to speed with the swim center project. We have a very wonderful group of swimmers that utilize that facility. It is a beautiful facility, but is in desperate need of a lot of work and care. And so I'm so fully in support of taking this back to the designer to come up with a construction design, finalizing the design costs and the rough order of magnitude cost so that we can really get a true assessment of what the total cost of the building renovation is going to be for the city, and then move that forward. So we are prepared to work with engineering alongside to move that project along if you all do approve that additional amount for the design services.
What is the amount that you're requesting?
So before I give you the number, I also want to note that brace yourselves. No, I wanted to mention that the architect's actually in the audience, and she is willing to answer some questions if there are some in the commission. But the ask, and I'll get right to the point, is $650,000 to finalize.
Are there any questions by commissioners of either city engineer Montalvo or Director Gonzalez?
Can I add just one comment?
You can.
So, this is approval, Joe's asking for approval of design work. I will just say that, there's also a request in the budget to complete the construction of the project, in the Measure J budget for 26 and 27, which you'll see just a little bit.
Those numbers are just projections.
Thank you, Chris.
Just for clarification, what is the use of the swim center? Or the title?
It's the use of the swim center, as far as like programming, is that what you need?
Yes, like who it's available to, programming, like
which population does it serve?
Sure. So it's open to the entire community. It's a public pool that is available for anybody that wishes to use it. Currently, right now, it's used a lot for lap swimming, so an exercise pool. We have a water aerobics program that gets really popular. We've actually, due to its popularity, we're now operating that on Saturdays. We are about to start our own master swim team that'll kick off in June. And it looks like we may be able to look at extending hours in the next few months. Currently, we're open 5:30 to 3, Monday through Friday, and then have some weekend hours. And we're going to be looking at expanding that to open until 7 p.m. So that'll allow for some additional programming, expansion of the water aerobics program, a new aqua cycling programming that we're looking to do. We have adult swim lessons, and then in the summer we have a really robust youth swim lesson program, and have our camps that are participating in the youth summer camp, about 300 kids or so that come over to the swim center and get some water play. So it is our only pool in the city. And for the city that gets really hot here, it is really important that our residents have a place to cool down.
And is it free for residents?
Oh, thank you. There's a slight fee. You can pay based on a pool pass to get a season pass. Either you can pay a daily rate. We are looking, if the council approves the new fee schedule, that we will reduce some fees in certain areas and also make it free for kids.
May I ask, does the high school still swim
Yes, the high school has an agreement with us, so their swim team utilizes our pool.
every day?
Their schedule varies depending on the season, but yeah, and a lot of the kids now are coming before high school and getting their exercise and lap swims in before going over to class.
Thank you.
Is the 650 in the 7 million? That's a crime, I'm skipping ahead.
The 650 would be, the 650, the plan is, you can see that we have forecasted for overages projects. We have $1 million in general, 750,000 in parks, and then we got 100,000 in marketing and communications. But so far, we've used none of those funds. So what we would recommend, that the commission could recommend, is that we would divert funds from these overages into the design work for the swim center. So we'll shift 650 from the 1 million overage into an actual capital project line for design. So it wouldn't change the bottom line.
Are there other questions by commissioners? Roll call vote on this? Yes. Can you do a roll call vote? The motion is to approve what Chris just said, basically.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cabreros,
Approved.
Commissioner Federer,
Approved.
Commissioner Schoen,
Approved?
Commissioner Dickpen,
Approved.
Commissioner Wolfer,
Approved.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Approved.
Commissioner Newby,
Approved.
Vice Chair Davis,
Approved.
Chair Sipkins,
Approved.
9-0, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming tonight, and we do have the commissioner sitting through this long meeting. I'll get down, let's go to the last item on the agenda, which is 8E, special state budget update. Chris, you wanna do it?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And in the interest of time, I would try to move through this fairly quickly, but still accurate.
Be appreciated by all of us.
We can have it, but that's what we want.
So I'm not going to focus a whole lot on current year. If you look at the summary page, the first grade column there, that's our current year. I just want to point out two things to the commission. You'll turn to the very last page, reading the sales tax analysis. Everybody a minute to get there. It'll be page 4 of your over. Top is measure J, just shows the sales tax we received year to date. Just want to point out that year to date, we received $11.7 million of sales tax, and in the prior year, $11.5 million. So we're on track to exceed prior year revenue, which is very important. As we were sort of forecasting something a little bit more neutral. So we're looking at a 1.5% increase year to date. And if that continues, we should be meeting our budget of 21.5 million. So just want to point that out to the commission. And then the second thing is we've had some slowdown in spending. So on the current projects, they're either coming to an end, and we're just kind of receiving invoices, the last sort of invoices. Or in the case of one of the big projects for the CAD RMS system for the police department. They ran into a legal issue with their RFP, so that's sort of stalled out for a couple of months. The rest of the projects are still moving forward, but they just haven't got a lot of movement in the last couple of months, so we're trying to push those things over the finish line so we can begin construction on some of those projects. That's what we do. I am going to move toward the budget. So if we look at the summary page, look at the second blue column, it says budget fiscal year 25-26. Go down to the sales tax line at 21.822 million. I've put in here a conservative growth estimate of 1.5% for each year, so it's not a lot of growth that we're anticipating. But we're hoping for a little bit of growth, just sort of organic growth based on standard inflation rates. Going down to the expenses, so there's only a couple of changes that we're going to input into the budget from what you guys are seeing today. First of all, this isn't a change, but just for your knowledge, any project that has a balance at the end of this year, those balances will roll forward and become part of the budget next year. Those projects are finished. So that's the way we kind of treat all of the projects in the capital world, is that if they have a balance and they're yet to be completed, we roll those balances over. So note that any project on the project list will continue on with the remaining balance. Do you have a question, Lauren? Oh, sorry. Oh, okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
So looking, for example, at the budget year 2025-2026, which is coming up. You show $1 million being budgeted for community initiated projects. And you just say that to the extent that anything is not funded or not, the funding is not used during the course of next year, then that would increase that $1 million and go back into funding.
So the way the community initiative project works is you guys have already approved $6 million plus the 1.2. So what'll happen is the entire $7.2 million will roll over into 26 to support the current approved projects. The $1 million that is going to be budgeted is going to be budgeted for future use and future community initiative projects in another year for another commission to be determined.
Thank you.
You guys have done your work. You're done. So back to the summary page, second blue column. One of the things that we want to continue that the city engineer has requested is going back and funding our streets program at $9 million a year until we, as long as we can afford it. So in these next 2 years, we've determined that we can afford it. We don't have the library building or the fire station building in play yet. That's going to come into play after the 27th year. So there's money left to do things with, like keep our streets maintained at $9 million a year. So we've added that to the budget. Going down one, Commissioner or Chair Simkins, you just pointed out, we're going to continue to set aside money for the community initiative projects as the council intends us to do every year. That will be $1 million a year until, and that will continue to accumulate until used in the future year. Continuing on down, we'll skip down to the 3.1 million. The 3.1 million, that is our continuing debt service from the downtown park project that went in place a few years ago. This debt service remains in play until 2036 when the debt is paid off. And then the 7.691 for adopted capital projects, I will get to that detail in just a second. It's on the next page. And then further, we're gonna continue, if the commission wishes, to set aside $1 million for project overruns. I'm not so sure that is going to be needed, but you never know. We got a couple of large projects that are still in play, the CAD RMS from the police department. A lot of public works projects, there's 3 of them that total $4.5 million. So it's probably wise to keep that $1 million in there, just in case some of these projects that are old come in a little bit higher than what we budgeted.
And the $1 million was in this year's budget as well, correct?
That's correct, and it wasn't used. That's what we're gonna use for the swim center design. I have removed the parks project overruns of $750, and I have removed the marketing and communication of $100,000. I don't think that's necessary, and the way I see it is if there are expenses for marketing and communication that were needed, we could always come to the commission and ask for an additional appropriation for those funds. In addition, if a park project does overrun, we can either use the $1 million that's already set aside, or the council or the commission can recommend another appropriation. So just as it happened year to date, so I don't see any need to budget for it and possibly take money away from something else. Any questions on the summary page or anything that I've copied so far? Okay, then let's go to the second page and talk about the 7.691 and how we got to that. So if you go to the, and I don't have it grayed out, I'll try to be better next time, but go to the column on our second page here where it says fiscal year 25-26 budget. That's probably about a little over halfway across the page. Does everybody see that? Okay. So the first thing down, you see a number of $941,375. So that is for a project for the downtown safety bollards. That's actually, we're not gonna install bollards, I don't think, or fix the current bollards that are installed or in place. But we are gonna put in real rugged safety barricades. So this money, came about and kind of got a lot of discussion after the event in New Orleans, when the truck went down the alley. So we kind of revitalized this project, rethought it. It's a public works project, and they want to invest that money into some heavy duty safety barricades. And so that's what the project is for. It's going to end up being about 1.5 million in total. But this year we're going to add 940,000 to the budget. We go down and you see there's $1 million a little bit farther down. That's the community initiated projects. And then the second line where we're adding budget this year, $750,000 to the city engineers pedestrian streets master plan. If you have any questions for him on that, he's sitting right next to me. He can answer those. We will additionally add $500,000 to the airport reserve. Again, just as a reminder to the commission, any sales tax received on aviation fuel set aside for airport projects. That's what that is. The $9 million for the streets program, and then we have 2 additional capital projects that we're proposing that the commission recommended to council. The first one is the construction for the swim center. It's the design dollars that you just approved, and this will be when design is finished and we move into construction. This money, a total of $7 million, will be used to completely renovate the swim center. The next project that we have will be in-ground pedestrian system replacement. The city engineers project, you can explain that if you would like, but we're going to add $3.5 million over the next 2 years for that project. So there's really only 2 additional projects that the commission is going to has to recommend to the council at this point. There is a little bit more room for another project in 27. There's no more room in 26. We've exhausted all the funds. But if the city engineer comes back and wants to add another project at the next meeting for the commission's consideration, there's room to do that. That's a possibility, but I think right now we're pretty satisfied with what we said.
Joel, can you give us 2 seconds of description of what in-ground pedestrian system replacement means?
So you cross streets where you push a button and the lights flash, right? So a lot of the systems are using old technology. There's batteries that go bad, there's things that happen. So one of the things that we're trying to do is go away from in-ground lights. And if you've been near Fire Station 3, where we recently put a brand new, almost like a traffic signal, you push it and it's a really big flashing light system. We're not going there. That is one option. That's probably the highest option, but we are going to try to revamp most of the crosswalks that are existing today throughout Palm Springs.
Fire Station 3 up by Victoria Park.
Yes. So that's the intent really, is to take out older systems that are basically using older technology and come up with newer systems that works out.
Thank you. Chris, you done?
Done with this page. I'm trying to make things quickly, but be thorough so the commission can understand what's going on. Next page will be the community initiated projects. The only thing that changes on this page is for the projects that we have approved. So if you go to the list and you go over to the same column 25, 26, you see the list of projects. So the list of projects here is the list, the first 5.2 million that the commission approved up until tonight. You can see there's a 775.68. The 775.68 was the additional projects that you approved tonight. So I will detail those projects out for the next meeting, which means that you have exhausted the $6 million budget. And you still have your $1.2 million of overages to work with if a project goes over the commission, which is to approve the overage. So that's the only addition to the community initiated project page, which is all the stuff, all the work that the commission has done to date and all the projects that have been approved. There are a couple of projects that are still left over from the last approval process. Those will maintain and those will continue forward. But the main thing is on this page is we will be tracking all of the new projects and all of the costs of the new projects. And that's all I have. Recommend the commission take some time to look through the numbers, so we did go through extremely thoroughly tonight. But the good thing is there's not a lot to consider. You have 2 projects, streets money, and some more community initiative project money for the next commission. So not a lot to consider. We'll come back at the next commission meeting. We are going to ask for your adoption of this budget as recommended to the city council, which will be presented to the city council on May 22nd in our general council session.
Does that mean we are gonna have a second meeting in May?
Correct. At the meeting in May, I will ask for your approval to recommend the budget to the city council.
And that'll be the only thing on that agenda.
As of now.
Let's see on the date of the next meeting,
May 15th.
May 15th. All right, well, I just want to say, it's closing. And it's been an incredible year. We've all worked very hard. I have been made very proud and very thankful that you made me the chair for the last year, and I appreciate all your support. Look forward to seeing you in May and both at the May 15th and the May 22nd meetings. Thank you. With that, I call for the meeting to be adjourned. I got your text.